Alright, what's up y'all, it's LakerFan here. As I'm actually about to title today's video, here to rank all 23 attribute ratings in NBA 2K23. So, you can see we have them all sorted in the category you would see if you're creating a build. We got the finishing up top, shooting underneath it, playmaking, defense, and then physicals after it as well. All pretty much color coded, and what we're going to do in today's video is replace them into tiers that they belong, and we're going to pit them against each other and see which is the best rating in NBA 2K23. So, hope y'all enjoy. If you do, feel free to drop a like, sub if you're new to noties, all good stuff, and like always, try to 2,000 likes. Alright, so with these tier list videos, what we typically do is either go from F to E to D and all the way up, or we'll go in the order from like bottom to top when it comes to this left column. What I'm going to do instead is actually go S all the way down to the bottom and show you the ones that I think are the best first and foremost, so we can kind of use them as a comparing tool when we get to ones that are below it and explain why the ones below it are below it because the ones above them are there. So, anyway, we're gonna get straight into this. As you can see, we have two physicals and then the 3-point also in the S tier. This is our whole S tier. Speed and excel. I want to talk about these two first and foremost. If you don't have one of these two things upgraded on your build to the maximum ability that your build can get, I'm assuming you're doing stuff wrong. I'm gonna be real with you. Now, I will say it's somewhat rare to max both of them on a build. So for instance, if you're a point guard and you're someone who's like a primary ball handler, you're typically maxing your acceleration almost every time. If you're like a pro-am shooting guard, you probably have your acceleration like maybe 4 or 5 ticks below maximum or something like that as well. But nonetheless, my whole point here is that if you're a big man, a lockdown, anything like that, or even just an off-ball player and you want to have good speed is going to be really one of the biggest priorities on your build. And generally you go low weight on it just to be able to maximize that even more. Or even if you max out your weight, you probably still put your speed all the way to the maximum ability that you can still achieve on that. And again, acceleration is the majority based thing when it comes to ball handling. Speed with ball, we will talk about it later in this video, much later in this video, because honestly, acceleration is the only thing that truly matters when it comes to being a point guard. Speed with ball, all you need this for is to be able to get the Michael Jordan dribble style, and that's a baseline 75 number. And I don't even want to with this video really take into account animation like unlock thresholds and stuff like that or anything of that nature. I just want to talk about the power of the rating itself. But we'll explain that a little bit. It may have a little bit of variance as far as things that influence certain badges, or for instance with driving dunk, quick drops is obviously gonna be something that's really important, not to mention contact dunks, because what would 99 driving dunk be with no contact dunks or any dunk packages equipped or anything like that? Obviously some of that stuff does matter. So while I do want to maybe go into speed with ball with caution, because again, this one is really only good because of the dribble style unlocking and it doesn't really matter as a rating that much at all, I do want to go into it with caution because there are a couple things in here that truly do matter when it comes to unlocking animations and stuff like that. Now, not that this is the whole reason, but speaking of things that unlock animations, we have 3-point rating. So as far as getting jump shots, obviously if you have like 50 3-pointer, you can't really put anything on. To be honest with you, it's gonna be default swing, default whatever the heck it is. And for that matter too, obviously there's multiple different levels of 3-point shooting. There is the level of corner spot ups that maybe you need at least 70 and above. Pick and poppers, once again 70 and above as well. For point guards or even just ISO players in general, like let's say the park ISO for instance, maybe 83 3-pointer for that Silver Agent 3. Or for instance, as a point guard, 92 3-pointer is a very common threshold. And all these things included really show you the power of 3-point, because typically I would say nearly 95% of the people on this game can't even play it without a 3-point rating on their build. I'm gonna be real with you, it's pretty obvious that that is the case, especially based on the comments from yesterday's video. You guys talking about those poppers, bro. I tell you what, so many people think these outside bigs are an absolute crutch that you need in this game. But nonetheless, my whole point here, you are right for the typical player. They need the outside bigs. They need the spacing. They need to be able to just involve everybody in the offense and not really have any inside bigs on the team or anything like that, or inside players in general. So I'd be crazy to not sit here and say 3-point rating is an S tier. It is. It absolutely is an S tier. Alright, so next up into the A tier, we have steal, ball handle, driving dunk, stamina, and then pass accuracy. Now, the pass accuracy has an asterisk next to it, and I want to explain why. Because ironically, there are no badges that are tied in with pass accuracy besides a couple things like bailout or needle threader, for instance, maybe special delivery, but no real key passing badges. Obviously, the things like bullet passer are no longer in the game anymore. Pass accuracy is one of the most important rating versus badge thresholds you'll ever see in the game. Like, obviously 3-point rating is cool and all, but if you're a point guard that doesn't have limitless range or doesn't have Agent 3, that's kind of tough. So 3-point obviously influences badges a little bit more. Same way that like speed and excel don't really tie into badges at all. The only physical that ties into badges is strength, and that's it. Whereas like vertical ties into certain obviously animation unlocking and stuff like that. But nonetheless, my whole point here, pass accuracy is the sole key one thing that influences pass speed, pass accuracy. Simple as that. So I do have this asterisk next to it because honestly you can make the case that it belongs in the S tier. So this is probably the best A tier rating, but just off the fact that pass accuracy is not a game breaking thing, it's kind of the reason it's down a little bit from the S tier down into the A. So that's my take on pass accuracy. We already have that out of the way. Stamina, let's be real with this. I mean, you generally are not going to make a build that has below 80 stamina. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody even turn into build, or even like, I even like look at the park cars or anything like that and see their stamina below 80 for that matter either. And it'd be stupid to. Personally, the only year I've ever seen stamina truly not matter that much is probably 2K21 next gen. That's it. And even at that, people with their 50 stamina builds were really troll if you ask me. It was stupid. It's so cheap of an attribute to upgrade. It costs you nearly nothing. If you don't have this 90 plus, in my opinion, you're really trolling yourself. I think it's really like the best value rating in the whole game for that matter. But yeah, next up we have steal, ball handle, and driving dunk. We'll start with steal. So obviously this is a very, very key rating in this year's game. It's not even one that you would think should really stand out like this, but obviously the fact that it's so elite at a high level is really ridiculous. Now, I will say too, you never want to have this on like 25 on your build. I'm real with you. If you have it on 25 on your build and you are like a defensive liability, let's say you're someone who guards corner and you have 25 steal, it's gonna get rough for you. I'm real. Like you're not gonna be able to protect yourself on the passing lanes. You're not gonna be able to do anything as far as like going for bump steals is gonna have so much delay as far as going for your reach-ins, or I should say like lack of the good cooldown, so to say. Like for instance, if you go for that on-ball reach-in, it's going to take you years to get out of that animation, because the lower your steal rating, the less like recovery you would have off going for a steal. I'll put it like that. The quicker reaction you get if you have a high steal rating. Nonetheless though, my whole point, you need this to protect yourself on passing lanes. You need it to be an elite defensive player in general, and to have it at a high level makes you a problem, not even just a non-liability. It's a problem, because obviously if you have a pure lockdown with 99 steal or 95 plus, anything like that, it becomes an absolute pain for people to dribble in front of it. But the ironic thing is, the counter to it is right here. So really, I would say both these ratings are a little bit hinged on the badges that you get with it too. So for instance, ball handle gives you quick first step, which is very nice. You don't even need speed with ball for that. I think 2K should really go a different way about that, by the way, because the fact that point guard movement in general is based on acceleration and ball handle rating, ironically, because it's based on quick first step. So you don't even need speed with ball by any means. It's really stupid in my opinion. I think you really should like force some of these people to upgrade their speed with ball if they want to be an elite ball handler in that sense. But nonetheless, obviously, ball handle and steal, they kind of hinge on badges a little bit more. So between unpluckable on Hall of Fame versus like glove on Hall of Fame, they kind of cancel each other out, for being completely honest. Now, if you have gold unpluckable versus Hall of Fame glove, it's not going to work very good. I'm real with you. There are some people that really struggle in this game when they run that gold unpluckable. And if you have a point guard build that has 94 ball handle and below, you are one that fits into that category of the gold unpluckable. And generally, you're probably getting really like hit by a lot of people that have that Hall of Fame glove 99 steal. But obviously, like I said, I think both these ratings kind of hinge on the badges a little bit more. So again, keep that in mind when it comes to my whole like conversation of don't really want to factor badges in. At the end of the day, you kind of have to be real with you, because they are the only ways that you can get these said things. You can't get glove through having like block upgraded or something like that, clearly. So you kind of just need it. Anyway, nonetheless, my whole point, they do cancel each other out a little bit, but ball handle is obviously important to get animations as well, and other badges like quick first step or hyperdrive, for instance. So nonetheless, they're both really good ratings, and we have them in the A tier. Driving dunk, for multiple different reasons. Obviously, it could come down to contact dunks, quick drops, alley-oops, all types of stuff like that. Even a pick and roller needs this as well. If you don't have driving dunk on your build, you're probably a very one-dimensional point guard. Now, I will say, I don't think you need to have driving dunk on a build. It's very advised. I would think of it the same way as three-pointer, to be honest with you. I probably see the same rate of people in this game that run like a non-dunking guard, as in one that has 25 driving dunk, or maybe even 50 like I recommend at like a bare minimum level. I see about that many people who also run insides in this game. I would even argue that maybe less people go with the no dunk build than they do an inside big man, for instance. But nonetheless, you need this on most builds. I would say it's kind of the same thing. Like I said, like if people don't want to play with a guard that has no dunk, I'll just put it like that. I do, because I have no three-pointer. They kind of go well together in that little marriage right there. But nobody really wants to play with a guard that can't really just dunk efficiently, quick drops, contact dunks, anything like that. The pro alley-oops and stuff like that as well. Just the bare minimums and the necessities and stuff like that. So Nonetheless, this also ties into getting limitless takeoff. It also ties into getting quick drops. All that stuff included, driving dunk belongs in the A tier. All right, so next up on display in the B tier, you will see versatility and the importance of defense in general on this tier. So we have vertical, which you really could even argue is another defensive rating included here. Perimeter defense, block, O board, and D board. Now keep in mind why they are in the B tier instead of the A tier. I would argue the only thing you really need to have on a build is steal rating. You could really get away with not having any of these things on a build for like a small 6'1" point guard or something like that. And as long as you are good at playing those passing lanes and protecting yourself on ball with the glove, you debatably don't really need these ratings, because then you could just have speed to factor into not really running perimeter defense, because you could just hold your right trigger instead of your left ever, and you could just sprint around the court instead of playing any left trigger defense and really playing the intensity and the cutoffs and stuff like that. So nonetheless, my whole point right here, I think these are really, really good, respectable ratings, and at an elite level, they really are all a problem, if you ask me, or are kind of glue ratings that you need, but they're not really in the same stratosphere as the A tiers. So just keep that in mind, but I think they're way better than anything remaining on this list, so we'll just continue to speak on that. Anyway, vertical. This goes like so many different ways. I think it really helps for rebounding. It helps for shot blocking as well. Unlocks certain dunk animations on top of that. And you could argue maybe even helps you dunk the ball. I would say it's probably unlikely though, to be completely honest. But nonetheless, vertical is really an underrated rating if you ask me in this game. If you have a high level of vertical, I promise you, you're the type of person that's getting chase down blocks in this game. The people that go with like the 50 vert builds or like the baseline 60 that they get for like trying to go for the quick drops, or maybe even 75 for pro contacts, it's generally not enough to get chase down blocks. It's generally not enough to be an elite shot blocker or interior defender in general, and also is not good enough to really help with rebounding at an elite level. So all this stuff kind of goes hand in hand. The only thing that's really not tied into all these ratings together is probably perimeter defense, but vertical, O board, D board, and block, they're all really like hinged onto each other if you ask me, because you can't be great at one of these things without another. You can't be a great offensive or defensive rebounder with like 25 vert. You can't be a great shot blocker without vertical rating either, but you also can't be any of those things if you only have vertical and then don't have any rebound rating or block rating either. But nonetheless, block rating, obviously, we all know it factors into anchor, not to mention, in my opinion, really just helps you play interior defense. You could have 25 interior D with 99 block, and I bet you it's going to actually be okay. Now, you can't do that. If you upgrade your block all the way, it's going to force your interior defense up as well, but I would argue that if you only ran anchor and had 99 block and 25 interior defense, it actually would look decent. It's just that the game forces your interior defense up with it. But nonetheless, we all know it factors into chase down blocks, it factors into paint contest in general, and I think it's actually a pretty underrated rating in this game as well. Perimeter defense, also in my opinion, kind of underrated because it kind of gets overshined by steal. So this also factors into obviously clamps, not to mention just moving good around the three-point line when defending obviously point guards and just offensive players that are just more so ISO or pick and roll oriented, that are going to have the ball in their hands a whole lot more than, for instance, off-ball players or anything like that. I think off-ball players you probably need more speed for, essentially. But what you could argue about perimeter defense is that you don't technically need it, because again, you could get away with just having high speed and not really hit your left trigger on defense very much at all. So I would argue for elite lockdowns or anything like that, you need perimeter defense. Gives you things like menace as well. Again, clamps, challenger, all types of things like that. In general, a way better shot contest and better lateral movement. So perimeter defense is a multifaceted rating that factors into a lot of different things, but obviously isn't something that sticks out so amazingly and so game-breakingly like other things may. Offensive and defensive rebound though, obviously this is for a little bit of a niche style. I think people should generally have at least 70 defensive rebound on their builds though. I think you are a liability if you have less than that, to be completely honest with you. Now, I know with the exception of maybe small point guards like 6'1s, you just have to put up with the fact that they can't really contribute to rebounding, and you just have to hope and pray they can land a box out when it comes to pro-am or anything like that, because if they got to guard that corner and let's say the lockdown maybe crashes offensive rebounds with like a great offensive rebound rating, that becomes a problem. Honestly, it really does. And like small point guards that have 25 rebound and run the bronze box, it's not very good, we're being completely honest. But anyway, at an elite level, obviously these two things kind of go hard. I would say defensive rebound, think of it as more of the glue thing that you need to have. Offensive rebound is more of the specialist, where if you're an inside big, or maybe if you're like a true 5 in Pro-Am who crashes offensive rebounds like crazy, even myself at 6'9", crashing offensive rebounds with like 94 O-board in the Hall of Fame box out beast gold rebound chaser, all that stuff included. Like O-board really is an underrated thing as well, but it's more for the offensive crashers. Simple as that. I would argue you probably don't need it on a corner, but putting it on like a lockdown or a power forward really does counteract the point guard's lack of rebounding and defensive rebound for that matter, and then you become a problem with your offensive rebound being high. Same goes for, let's say, for instance, even Park. I would say offensive rebound is actually pretty important for 2v2, because if you do any drive and kick and you kick out to that big man, if you have offensive rebound at the 1, you are going to be a problem with that. Same goes for threes even for that matter too. Offensive drive and kick in this game is just extremely heavy, so the more offensive rebound you have, the more you can obviously like help your teammates off their missed shots and actually recover those and not make them feel so bad about missing their shots. Because truth be told, I've crashed a lot of offensive rebounds in this game, and we would probably lose some games if I was just floating around the three-point line instead of actually crashing those O boards. It's just the truth, and like that's Park more so that I'm speaking for as well. All right, so next up into the mid tier, aka C tier, we have standing dunk, interior defense, mid-range, close shot, and driving layup. A lot of finishing related things, as you can see. The only really finishing rating that stands out to be elite is probably driving dunk, and we all know this, to be completely honest with you. I will say standing dunk, it could have an argument, but honestly, even if you have very low standing dunk, aka like 45 or 50, it still plays really well, and going at an elite level is kind of overkill sometimes, but you can still get the standing contact dunks. Nonetheless, I do still value standing dunk. It's very good. It's just it doesn't have the importance, in my opinion, of the things that are in the B tier, or especially A or S. So I think C tier is right where it belongs, and I think C tier is a great benchmark for what standing dunk truly is, and sets the benchmark for all these other ones as well. So as for interior defense, this is obviously the counter to say close shot, standing dunk, and even driving dunk for that matter too. I mean, it obviously plays a factor in defending anything to do with finishing, so that plays a big factor. And also for having interior defense up, it'll give you, let's say for instance, brick wall, which can stop post control backdowns, or for instance maybe even post move lockdown. It's also one of the things that it's tied to as far as the badges go. The problem with interior defense is it doesn't really tie into a lot of badges. It obviously doesn't give you anchor or anything like that, no chase down obviously, and really doesn't give a lot of the important like defensive badges, not even pogo stick for that matter either. So all this really gives you is brick wall and post move lockdown. That's literally it. I think it might actually give you workhorse too, but obviously that doesn't even matter that much as far as our conversation about it. And obviously interior defense, yes, it will give you better contest percentages and stuff like that. I would argue it really should be like bottom of the C tier though. I don't think it's even close to block as far as its importance. So think of block on like high B tier, think of interior D as like low C tier essentially. But anyway, moving along, mid-range. This is also something that I think goes a little bit under the radar and a little bit underrated, but for kind of a good reason, to be honest with you. It's not really a very easily usable play style, to be completely honest with you, to just spam like midi fades, hop jumpers, stuff like that, spin jumpers, or just anything to do with the mid-range. It's a very niche style, and I do have a lot of love for it though. It is a very hard style to use. It's not a very valuable style either though, because it obviously gives a 2-point shot instead of a 3 while still requiring timing and really knowing like the fatigue timing, and same with multiple different jump shot timings, because if all you do is shoot standstill middies or fadeaways, you're probably not using it the right way. I would argue that the hop jumpers and spin jumpers are a little bit nice to use when it comes to mid-range, for the fact that it ties in a lot of badges like Space Creator or Midi Magician for instance as well. But again, when used the right way, I do have a lot of love for it. Not to mention it also functions as the post fadeaway rating and post hop rating as well. So mid-range can go really a lot of multifaceted different importance like levels and stuff like that. Not to mention playstyles like that are extremely valuable on 2v2 and also pretty valuable on Pro-Am. Not at an unreal rate or anything like that, but definitely can be used in Pro-Am. But 2v2, it's extremely valuable, especially if you play with an inside big on 2s. I know that's like literally 0.01% of the people who play this freaking game, but it definitely is something that's nice to have in that situation. Nonetheless, close shot also ties into the post game as well. Obviously mid-range being the outside oriented stuff with the fades and hops. Close shot being with the hooks as well, not to mention just the paint mashing in general too. And things like masher and fast twitch, in my opinion, are maybe not as good as they used to be in years past. Like for instance, I think masher was the badge that replaced mouse in the house is what I believe it was, and mouse in the house was way better, or whatever the heck it was. I think that's what the name of it was, but anyway, I would say that masher is not exactly an unbelievable badge this year anymore. It definitely is still okay. I consider masher to be kind of C tier, B tier as well, to be completely honest. But anyway, close shot, still a pretty like glue rating, I would say. You kind of want it to just be on any random build. Like if you're a 6'9" that does a lot of ISO as well, it really is a good pair with driving dunk on top of that too, because if you go for the driving dunks and people maybe are more baited into going for chase down blocks on you because they have to try and stop that dunk, if you just let them go flying right by your head, close shot also factors into that, and also factors into the just quickness of going up with it, with obviously fast twitch as well. So with all that included, we haven't even talked about the mashing bigs like the 7-3s and stuff like that in comp pro-am, or just in general, maybe like, let's say, the post scores on the 1v1 court or 2v2. Close shot kind of factors into all of that, but nonetheless, I still think it's such a non-usable or niche rating that it belongs in the C tier, same with the mid-range, and I don't think you'd have a good time arguing that close shot is more important than, say, for instance, anything in the B tier for those type of builds either. But anyway, moving along, we have driving layup next, which is also in the C tier. I thought for a second about putting this in the D tier though, to be completely honest with you guys, because if you don't know, some of the badges that are tied into driving layups between Giant Slayer or Fearless Finisher, for instance, are actually still tied into your close shot rating too. It doesn't have to be driving layup. I seen this dude Bougie, who we played against with Buke. I know I've talked about this in probably like 4 videos now, the pro-am game that we finally lost a game for that matter, and he had a build that only had 72 driving layup, yet was spamming acrobatic, super crazy, uncontested layups off Giant Slayer and Fearless Finisher, going crazy, yet at the end of the day only had low 70s on his driving layup but had 85 close shot. So my whole point here is that the only thing I really valued with the driving layups was, for instance, Giant Slayer and Fearless Finisher, but you don't even need that truly to be able to utilize it, and I was going to argue about putting it in the D tier, but nonetheless, most people don't do that. They generally go with about 80 driving layup, and with that, if you are a small guard, it becomes very tough to guard. I mean, the Giant Slayer and Fearless Finisher, when it is paired with the driving layup, is really annoying. Not to mention my own style that I will use selfishly in this argument right here, is that I have the Zach LaVine layup. I really love it as a just chain to use for a finishing like dunker style build where you can use it to set up even more dunks as well. Not to mention just in general gives you more layup packages, which can be extremely important and useful as well. But would never argue that it belongs to be above any of these right here, let alone it's probably bottom of the C tier. Alright, so now in classic LakerFan fashion, we're here to hate on post control and strength. Now, I will maybe talk about strength in just a second right here, but with post control, I just want to explain myself. So this is obviously, once again, a very niche style of really just even being necessary in the first place. Not to mention, you could see post scorers absolutely utilize their post scoring with no rating at all. And I don't mean with the drop steps. You need that to be able to drop step. You need it to be able to even rely upon that drop step not getting plugged. But when it comes to backing people down or going for post fades or anything like that, post hooks, you don't even need post control. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I see Tonic utilize that post game so well with no post control on his builds, whether it's the fades, the hooks, anything like that, the hop jumpers, the post tops, the post fades, the post hooks, all that stuff can be chained up with no post control at all. 25, I'm talking. So post control, in my opinion, is only really necessary when it comes to drop stepping. Yes, I know there will be people that disrespect this take and they'll be like, I need it to do the post spins and stuff like that. I need it to even like set up my hooks because then people can press up on me super tight. I get it. I totally do. But even at that, it's such a niche rating. If you took a survey on the people who upgrade post control on their build, it's probably less than 10% of the people who even play this game. I would even argue maybe less than 5%. So it's such a niche thing. It belongs in this D tier, if you ask me. With all due respect to post scores, it belongs here, personally. Now, speed with ball, we should probably have another asterisk on this as well, because truthfully, it really hinges on the Michael Jordan dribble style. Anything more than 75 in this game is just trolling yourself. I've seen a lot of people's day one point guard builds that have like 92 speed with ball, but only like maybe 89 acceleration. Instead of going like 96 excel and 75 speed with ball, they move so much slower in the half court. The only thing that benefits you is maybe press break in pro-am. That is nice to be had. I will argue that as well, at least, but nonetheless, I mean, you can get hyperdrive without it, you can get quick first step without it, you can get everything to do with moving with the ball without it, and the only thing that's extremely important is the dribble style, and it really is a huge thing. So you can make your argument whichever way you want. If you really think you have to hinge on that dribble style so much, yeah, it's probably a B tier thing for like point guards, just because you have to put it at 75 and above. Not to mention, if you put your ball handle extremely high, it's going to take it up with it anyway, and you probably have more like 82, 83 ball, or speed with ball, I should say, if you have like 96 ball handle. But anyway, it's not a good rating. It's not a good attribute. If you were playing, let's say, my league with it, I would never, ever give any, I would never care about it at all. You would be sitting here looking like, for instance, I actually am playing one with my friends right now. So let me explain. Donovan Mitchell has pretty low speed with ball. I think it's like 83 or something like that. Yet he has 90 acceleration. I see that and my eyes light up because I'm like, well, Donovan Mitchell can shoot, he has really good dunk rating, and his acceleration is high, but these guys don't know that speed with ball doesn't really matter like that. So they're going to sit here and be like, oh, Donovan Mitchell, 6'1" with only 83 speed with ball, that's so slow, that's going to be horrible. Little do they know, this game moves like this, and he has gold quick first step too. Maybe silver, I don't remember which, but nonetheless, my whole point here, speed with ball, not important, simple as that. Strength. I would argue it's probably top of the D tier right here. It maybe could be in the same breath as driving layup, where strength is nice to have for brick wall, yet at the end of the day you can get brick wall with interior defense. You don't even need to really have strength. Strength is also good for, let's say, box outs and stuff like that as well, but if you have Hall of Fame box out beast, it generally can be good enough anyway. And I don't know, strength is very like accessory rating, if you ask me, where you don't really need it, but it's nice to have depending on your play style. Not to mention, I have a theory that it helps you play on-ball defense as well with like grabs and body ups and stuff like that, but nonetheless, you've seen minimum weight lockdown still bump people like crazy just off the Hall of Fame clamps and their speed and their cutoff ability of maybe just planting themselves in the right spot because they have so much more variety in movement to it, where their perimeter defense carries in that aspect, yet strength can get more grabby and kind of bail you out in that sense. But it's hard to really say, truthfully, to be honest with you guys. So long story short, I don't think strength is really, like, I don't think it belongs to be like really in the breadth of things that are in the C tier right here, and especially not the B and above, but it can be better than speed with ball and post control, and debatably in the same breath as driving layup, to be honest with you guys. But anyway, free throw. I would argue this actually could be higher just because of the fact that it's so easy to upgrade and it's so cheap, and to get it to barely like baseline 70 or something like that, or even if you're just a pure inside build, you don't want your mid-range getting forced up with it or anything like that, get it to 50 at least. I mean, I made the mistake of putting it on really low on my little big man build, but I was penny pinching for everything I could get. Not to mention I figured I was probably just going to play park with it anyway. So that's the other argument you can make with this, is that if you're playing only park, like only 1s, 2s, and 3s, and never ever playing rec, center, or pro-am, you don't need free throw. Simple as that, obviously, right? But even for that matter, I hit with 50 free throw at a really good rate, and at 70 and above, you're just bad if you're missing those, to be completely honest with you guys. So, I mean, you can definitely hit with 70 free throw almost every single time as long as you're locked in. And if you have it at like 80, something like that, I guess, like maybe if you want to push the boundaries to just make every white you shoot as well. But I would argue free throw is just not really important. But because of how cheap it is, that's the one thing I would argue for it in the builder, is that it is still at least cheap and at least worth it in a sense. But the rating itself, not really that important. You can hit with a really low free throw in this game. It's just the truth. Anyway, that's all for the video. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, for to drop a like, sub if you're new to noties, all the good stuff. And like always, try to one to 2,000 likes. If you made it to the end of the video, put your favorite rating in the comments. Show support me all the way through. Whether that's free throw, whether it's stamina, whether it's speed, excel, three-pointer, anything like that. Leave in the comments what your favorite rating is to show your support made it all the way through the end of this pretty long video, for that matter as well. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. I mean, I don't really pull this out too often. I don't do it seasonally or like multiple times in the year. This is probably the only time I even make this video. If I ever do make this video again, it'll probably be like 3 or 4 months in the future, where we're at like nearly the end of the game. We just kind of recap, talk about what was the most important rating in 2K23. But I don't like to recycle content too much. I know I do the tier list videos pretty often, but that's with badges, where I'm trying to update you guys on new opinions formed and stuff like that. This stuff, the ratings kind of stay pretty set in stone. They don't really change too much. But anyway, that's all for the video. Hope you all enjoyed. And on that, take it easy, man. Peace.